Welcome back. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Kansas City Commercial Real Estate Market Pulse. Today, I'm joined by Tate Unruh. He's a former pro athlete turned entrepreneur and performance coach and one of my good buddies. And I will just say his daughter's basketball team really gave it to my daughter's basketball team. We did not win that one. So we'll talk about that. But he's joining us today to break down why becoming the right person matters more than chasing the next goal, something that he and I have talked about quite a bit. So I think this is a timely conversation. It's a timely conversation because we're into May, almost the end of Q2, right in the middle between Q1 and Q2. Kind of, and I felt this with my own team and folks in the Brokers Mastermind, where some folks starting to feel a little bit of that burnout, a little bit of that like, how do I make sure I'm showing up on the regular basis? And, I always go back to, more of an identity focus than it's just a goal focus. And we're going to talk about that quite a bit today. Shout out to the Midwest Commercial Real Estate Advisors team. If you have any needs in regards to industrial, retail, multifamily land in the Kansas and Missouri area, please do reach out to myself or one of our brokers on the team. We've got you covered and excited to continue to work on all kinds of cool deals across the city. A little bit of housekeeping. I do believe we are live and streaming to LinkedIn. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty on my side of things. So no, we are live. There we go. Now it's starting to populate. So Michael Meyer staying strong shift in mindset. Identity-driven habits are what sustain long-term performance beyond short-term goals. You better believe it. We got Taha jumping in there saying failure isn't from weak goals, but weak systems. When identity drives habits, consistency stops being a daily decision. I think this is super important conversation, with anyone who's an entrepreneur in business, just in life in general, because to me, being able to delineate your, what I'll call worth, your self-worth from achievement and goals and in what you're doing on a regular basis and who you are is the key to sustainability. Okay. And so I'm going to introduce Tate. He's a former D1 basketball standout at the University of Northern Colorado. He went on to play professionally overseas before transitioning into entrepreneurship and performance coaching. He's the co-founder of the Freedom Lab, focuses on helping individuals and leaders unlock their full potential by shifting from those outcome-driven thinking models to identity-based growth. All right. And he draws on his experience from elite athletics and sales and business. And he's working with high performers to build that confidence, that consistency, and my favorite word in business, clarity, which empowers them to elevate both their personal and professional lives. Tate, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. That's quite the intro. You're making me sound a lot better than I might be. But
well, obviously you've been working on your humility, because every time we chat, I take something away and I'm writing something down or making a mental note, and I think that's really important. The highest compliment I think that somebody can get is like you get an email or a text message from them like a week or 2 weeks ago, after you meet with somebody and they're like, man, you said something that I just can't get out of my head.
Totally.
Right. And I don't know how many months ago, years ago it was when you and I sat down at that Starbucks, no idea even where that was. Just cold, just sat down and man, we riffed for like 90 minutes,
Yeah.
And now our networks have sort of come back together, which is awesome. And, that conversation really did stick with me. And it was this question that I think I mentioned to you, but it's like, who are you building the castle for? It's like, why are you doing what you're doing? And, coming up on 40 years old here in a couple years, and I'm no longer just the young guy in the business, right? And so I've got people that are joining my team that I'm 15 years older than, and that's wild, right? That's wild. And so what it's got me thinking about is, what makes up a good entrepreneur, salesperson, business person. So why don't you give us a little bit of the background, man? I love that we gave a little bit of the athletics, and I know that drives a lot of what you talk about and what you've learned through, but give the listeners here today just a little bit of insight to who you are and your journey so far.
Yeah, I love it, man. Thank you. I remember that day at Starbucks, by the way. Yeah, I have taken nuggets from that day, still applying them daily. So kind of cool to hear you say that. Just a sidebar.
For sure.
Yeah, man, I would call myself now I would call myself a recovering high performer.
Yep.
And not that being a high performer is bad, right? I think I gave that title and that status way too much real estate in my mindset and in my heart for probably 25 years. It's how I would have identified I am Tate, I am a high performer. So man, like that started early. That started in sports. I wanted people's approval, and I learned that, well, it's really easy to get their approval if I'm just really good at sports. And so that kind of compounded into a good high school and college career. And then before you know it, I was playing overseas for money. And that was a really easy conversation to have if I wanted to impress people. It's like, oh, hey, what do you do? It's like, well, humbly, I do this thing that you probably really wish you could do. Right. That's
Mm.
wasn't what I was saying, but it's the tone with which I carried myself. So yeah, man, and then transition into the business world. So I got married almost 9 years ago. We started
Yeah.
having kids overseas, and then it was just time to be done. Time to be done, get into business, get like a real job. Um, Started a business with my wife. It was a side hustle, turned into a main hustle. We started doing a lot of volume. I quit my other sales job because this was just made more sense to do that. And now all of a sudden, I've got a new hat that I'm wearing. It's this business guy, but I'm pulling identity from that whole high performer persona. Still,
Yeah.
nothing really had changed, man. Like I just stayed in gear 5. First it was sports, then it turned into business. And honestly, like I'm a person of faith. It showed up in my spiritual life. It showed up in my relationships. Like I always wanted to be outperforming whoever I was gonna compare myself against,
Mm.
whether that was the 2 guard on the other team, or the business who's kind of in the same industry, or the guy at my church who seems like a good guy, and I wanna be a better guy. Um, yeah, man, it wasn't until really a couple of years ago. Identity crisis is an aggressive term, and it gets thrown around there a lot. And I wouldn't say I had like an aggressive identity crisis, but man, having had some success and experiencing like a lot of what the world has to offer, really did. I really had like a little bit of a man, I've done these things, and I was kind of in a
Mm.
spot where I was looking for something new to do vocationally. And I was like, I don't even know if I know who I am. I mean, I have some identity statements that I could make, but I don't know that they're specific to me and only me. And so, man, that transformational cup just kind of overflowed.
Mm.
And what spilled out was the Freedom Lab, and that's continuing to evolve. It's not a faith forward company, but man, it's like it's faith founded, and it's driving a lot of what I do now just in the coaching space with executives and high performers. Someone told me a couple months ago, they were like, "Yeah, the ideal client for you is yourself 7 to 10 years ago."
Mm.
And that's what I mean, that wasn't necessarily intentional, but that's what happened. You know, just having this relationships in sports and in business over the past 7 to 10 years. Um, yeah, man, like I didn't have real freedom, and I would have tried to portray that I did. Like, dude, if you'd have asked me, if you'd have asked 18-year-old Tate, now if you'd have just shown 18-year-old Tate, hey man, here's what your life is going to look like when you're 23, I'd have been like, oh great, game on. Yeah, I'm good. I'll have made it. That's fine. And then the goalpost moves, right? And I show up there at 23 and it wasn't enough.
Mm.
If you just showed 23-year-old Tate, hey man, at 35, this is how your life's going to look, I'd have been like, oh, great. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm in for that. And here I was, 35, going, man, this isn't enough. Like the goalposts had moved. So, like, that's really like my heart And I would say my identity now, yeah, man, it's like a trailblazer and someone who does it joyfully. And it's not in a framework of like earning value by blazing as many trails and making as much money as I can. It's because that's who I am. Um, it's a long-winded answer, but
Yeah,
yeah, man, that's kind of the background.
absolutely. Well, first, want to give a shout out. We are live on LinkedIn. I see all of you guys joining in here. Thank you for joining us. Do drop your questions in for Tate and myself here today. We're going to be monitoring those, so make sure you get your questions in. Something I wrestle with quite a bit, and I used to be, the guy that was setting goals and knocking those goals down and striving for them and tunnel vision, right? And while I think that goals are important, I have found over the last 10 or 12 years that they are never enough, right? And so I do want to ask a question to you. I mean, where do you see high achievers getting this wrong the most? What are they chasing that's actually holding them back? Because a lot of the rhetoric and coaching and books would say, well, we need to have smart goals around our faith, our family, our fitness, and our future, right?
Mhm.
And like, what's this balance of like, you should know where you're trying to go, but at the same time, just know once you achieve that goal, like you mentioned, the goalpost is moving. So why are goals not enough?
Yeah, I love it. And we know we've talked about this a little bit, but it's to me, it's not the goal because oftentimes like the proverbial goal that we have in our mind, let's just say it's a monetary goal. Let's just say we got somebody who wants to make $1 million this year and they've got that goal. Well, if I were to snap my fingers and tell that person, "Hey, I just wired you $1 million." Well, that's not what brings them peace and the freedom that they want, right? That's
Mm,
not and most of the time, just about all the time I've seen the people we work with, that's not the thing that they're so connected to. It's that money would now either buy them time or buy them the ability to go spend time with their wife or their kids or do something they've never got to do, right? So, man, so much of what we do is I mean, I tell people all the time, you're like, "Well, what do you do?" I help people get what they want most. Well, a lot of times what they think they want most is some sort of monetary goal or status or job title. And then if we keep pulling on the end of that root, it's actually just some sort of time that they can spend with the people they love the most. So, to answer your question, I mean, goals are good, right? Like we all I have goals, man. My current reality and my vision, that's not the same thing. So there's a gap there automatically, and I need goals if I want that vision to become my current reality. So, man, if you don't have goals, I probably have a lot of questions for you. The problem, especially with high performers probably get a little extra dose of like it's pretty hard to have a good relationship with goals. The problem is the real estate that we give these goals rather than just making them targets and almost viewing them as like neutral and data. I like to view goals as neutral and data because
mm,
man, if you can view them that way, you'll either hit it or you won't. But if it's neutral and if it's a gift and if it's just data, then it's like, okay, what did I learn? And so, man, that was one big thing for me, even in the past few years of feeling like, man, I had this goal and I didn't hit it. I'm a failure. I failed, and that means I'm a failure. Man, I read a book and big like failure expert, I would call him. He talks about failure is learning. Like
mm.
all failability is learning. So now if I can just view me not hitting that goal as data, okay, what's the data telling me? It's telling me your plan needs to adapt. You didn't put enough resources into this thing, whatever it's telling me. And if I can truly view it as data, the goal's not bad. The goal is just data. But, this is 25 years of my life, man. And a lot of high performers that we work with, it ends up being, no, my value is tied to my performance. And so if I don't hit the goal, there's a lot of real estate that's tied to just in my heart and in my mindset that's tied to that goal at all costs. I've
Mm.
got to hit it. If I don't, that's a strike at my identity rather than it's neutral. It's just data.
Yes. Yes. Well, a lot of things I want to just say and have you react to these. The first one being the fact that you're mentioning goals being neutral and learning from them and utilizing them as data. Okay, if you break this down and love him or hate him, Alex Hormozy has done a lot of thinking around goals. Okay,
So good. Yeah.
and he's the first to tell you, I'm gonna be a billionaire. And like people say you're gonna burn out. He said, I was listening to him. I listen to him almost every morning
He's great.
on this loop, but he talks about he really enjoys the hard work and like figuring it out. Like that truly has been his goal, is doing that. I mean, he was at a Ivy League school or whatever it was and, dropped out. I don't know what the story was, but dad wanted to become a doctor or whatever.
Yep.
And, he starts some gyms, but he said that hard work, that's what I truly enjoy. Right. And so that was just something that has really stuck with me, is like, if you truly are a high performer, and go read Tim Grover's book, Good to Great, Cleaner, Cooler, Closer, or Cleaner, sorry, Cooler, Closer, Cleaner.
Yep.
And if you truly are a high performer, you're going to have to come to the realization that most people are not. Okay. And you will not be able to relate in some regards. So if you played athletics at a high level, if you are a high performer in the sales world and that's what you focus on, whatever it is, like the first thing is like you got to realize your that part of you is different. And this came to fruition for me. My wife, she's like, man, I thought I was disciplined and goal oriented, and then I met you, and like
Same here.
you are like 1000% more focused and disciplined than I am. And I'm pretty disciplined and focused. And that's not me tooting a horn. It's my makeup.
Yeah.
If you look at my strength finders, it's individualism, competition, achiever, discipline, and focus. Like it is ingrained in me. Okay.
So good.
Now, the other component is like you said, the real estate that the goals take up. This is what I want to really double click on, because the moment that you realize like the amount of energy that you're giving towards that goal, you're saying no to so many other important things. Okay. So I'll give you an example. I thought I needed to start playing golf and, doing all of this stuff. And so whenever I went and got some clubs and, started taking lessons and go from a 25 handicap to a 15 handicap, and I get it down to a 12 handicap. And it's like, but I missed how much time that was actually taking. And now I haven't played golf for like 2.5 years because I asked my wife 2 years ago, like, what was the one detractor from our relationship? And she said golf. And I literally haven't picked him up since. So you can see the obsessiveness of me, right?
Totally.
But how much real estate I gave to that goal of becoming the best golfer at the country club that I'm a part of, that I don't utilize anymore. For what? Right? So same thing in your life. Now, I have sort of figured this out of like, what is important to me is growing and that journey. So there's a quote out there. It says something along the lines of, as long as you learn, you don't lose, right? So it's like the idea being you either win or you learn. Okay. And that's that data component that you're talking about. And to me, like the achievement part, I have surrendered a lot more of that than I have in the past. But what I have found to be extremely valuable is the ability to find joy in the work ethic and the part about getting better at what I'm trying to do. Right. So I just wanted to mention that and give some examples of how this has kind of shown up in my own life. And
so good.
I just want to, I know Quinn had to jump, but Quinn says, perfect motivation. Back to the phones for me. Cheers, gentlemen. Thank you, Quinn, for being here. I
Way to go,
appreciate
Quinn.
that, man. Go get the calls in for sure. But I think this is a perfect example of like one of those times where, are we outcome obsessed versus are we becoming versus achieving? So let's shift into this. Let's talk about what this
Yep.
identity shift can actually look like in real life. Like, how does someone that's listening here, we got a bunch of listeners in, move from chasing those outcomes to becoming the person that they're truly capable of becoming? Like, what's that shift look like for people?
Yeah, it's two things for me. I would say the first is really having like a vision, and that word gets thrown around a lot. I'm a visionary. Let's cast a compelling vision, right? You hear that a lot in business. Um, Man, I think it works. Vision works when it's like totally thrilling, 10 out of 10, and you can make it specific and measurable. When you have a vision like that, then that's a vision that you can let be the boss. If your vision is just, hey, I want to make $1 million a year because this guy that I know
Mm,
from college does, and I just want to beat him. Well, one, I mean, okay, we could make it measurable, but that's not, I mean, is that thrilling to you? I mean, or is the time you get with your kids or like whatever else that you want with that money, like what's actually thrilling? So first thing I think of is vision. Um, Second thing I think of is man, just like the idea of, you hear people talk about like scarcity versus abundance mindset and the comparison is the thief of all joy, things like that. I think about, I think I first started learning this as an adult. I was still playing, and yeah, it's a quick story. So there was a guy, he played the same position. He played in Germany. We did like a little preseason summit type thing where we all went to the same city. We played 4 or 5 games in a couple days, more like just like tune-ups. And I knew this guy. I'd followed him in college, and I was excited. I was like, "Oh, game on!" Like, I want to see how I stack up against this guy, and I cooked him. Like, I've had a great game, both sides of the ball. Like, totally cooked him, and I was like feeling good. We went into the next day. Like, coach gave me a day, like a morning to rest. I was like, feeling like the man, feeling like okay, achievement on high alert here, just feeling like super successful. And I was talking to some of the agents were there. One of them was just asking me, he wasn't there earlier. He didn't know how the game went. He didn't watch any of the first day. And the guy who I had played against, who I just cooked the day before, was playing. He was playing great. And the agent was like, yeah, he's talking all about him. And he told me how much money he was making. And it was like triple what I was making. And I was like, immediately, my whole persona, my whole like experience of that weekend shifted from I'm enjoying doing this thing that I love to do to I don't have enough. He
mm,
has more than me. And so, therefore it's not enough. And man, like that translates to parenting, that translates to business. Like, how many times have we had some sort of success or some sort of experience, and then we hear on a podcast or see on social media or have a buddy at the club tell us, hey, so and so did this. It's like, oh, well, now I'm having a bad day. Right?
yeah.
So rather than viewing that as like he's here and I'm here, even though I don't think it's fair, we can just view it as data. And
Mm,
so like that was like a superpower for me, man, was being able to change my mindset from if I'm just stuck on achievement. And the story I just told, like the achievement would have been playing so well that my contract then reflects the value that I think I bring. And it's more than this guy's value or whoever I'm comparing myself against to. That's the achievement spectrum. The becoming spectrum is, let's get curious. Why does it bug me so bad that I played better than him and he makes more money than me?
mhm,
Why does it bug me so? Why is that like now the driving force for my next 45 days here in my workouts and everything? Why does that bug the crap out of me? Right. And so, man, like if I could have just been curious, I was 28. If I could have just been curious about that and been like, what could I learn here? Well, I would have fast tracked my I think I would have fast tracked my path towards just realizing that if I can pull my value from my identity. And I had a buddy who was talking identity with, and we're doing some fear work. And we just the way we talk about identity is it passes two tests. Full true identity passes two tests. It's specific to you and only you, and you can't become it or lose it. So, man, I think about like a room of chairs, just like a room of like 300 chairs, and they're all in an auditorium, and they're all a different color. Some are green, some are red, some are blue, and there's 300 shades of blue, and some are green and blue. And you go up and ask them all their identity, and every chair just says, "I'm a chair." And you're sitting there going, huh, well, that seems weird because I'm looking at all of these chairs and not one chair is like you. And so, man, I think some sort of eye-opening moment finally came to me, and I was like, man, my identity is the most valuable thing about me. No matter what kind of income I have or how much money I have in the bank or whatever other goals I'm chasing, all that achievement stuff, that's fine. And at its face value, it's good, right? Like do your best. That's one of the family values we have written on our wall. It's like we're gonna do our best here. And if we don't perform at a level that's higher than Timmy down the street or whoever else, that's just data. So if we can take it at face value for what it is, that's when we can step into our greatest gift, which is our identity, man. That's been like, I can't tell you, I can't tell you how much more free I've felt. This is like a great example. Like I had a sales call the other day. Guy I was wanting to coach, and this guy does well. Like he'd be an ideal client for what we do, just like a high performer. And I was like, hey man, like, would you ever be open to having a conversation about me coaching you? Yes, please. Let's have that conversation. So we do it. It's 45 minutes, great conversation. And at the end of the conversation, I was like, okay, so here's the offer. Like this is rack rate. This is, I think it's world-class coaching and it's a high ticket. And he was like, look, man, that's awesome. This was like the most valuable 40 minutes of my day. And I'm not paying that. And I said, great. Sounds good. So I hung up the call. Dude, 2 years ago, that would have wrecked me. What's my business plan? Am I priced too high? Like, am I bringing this kind of value? It'd have been 90 minutes of internal self-talk of like, how do you get the sale you didn't achieve? But man, I hung up that call. I immediately went upstairs. We had soccer practice to run to. I didn't think about it again until 3 days later when he was like, "Hey, could you send me that in paper, on paper? I just want to see what you're charging for and how you break it down." And I was like, "Man, that there is freedom in
Yeah.
failure, right? But if I can just see it as a gift and it's neutral, that's where becoming like it's a superpower. It's a superpower that we can just unlock and then it's like we've talked about this, but like then you can just let it rip."
Yep. Yep. Yeah. It reminds me, John Wooden said that his definition of success is the self satisfaction in knowing that you did the best job that you were capable of doing.
So good.
And I'm pretty sure that guy won like 12 NCAA championships in a row or something like that.
The best
So,
achiever. Yeah.
but he also said, if we do that, sometimes the scoreboard up there is not going to show us a W because the other team just was better today. But you still have that self-satisfaction in knowing. And, I think the best like definition of how to build confidence that I've ever heard from was from Ed Milet. And he just said it's the ability to know that you kept the promises that you made to yourself. And it's like when nobody's watching, right? It's like, what did you do when nobody is watching? And, I've had a little more time recently to think and strategize. And I'm pushing against that because I'm like, I need to be producing. But I left church this morning and got into the office and I said, that's the thing I'm running away from. I'm going to lean into it. So I sat down with my journal and I just started writing and thinking, and that brought me energy. And, it's like, for me, I have to realize I'm getting to a point where my best time is not just producing, but it is thinking about pattern recognition and leading other individuals on how they need to be producing and how to do that in the best way possible. So I'm reframing the thing I've been running away from to step into it, to actually say this is leadership. And it's this, and so what came out of this is this idea of perception versus perspective. And you just mentioned it, like all of those chairs in the room perceived that they were the same. I'm just a chair. But if you were to look at all of those, anybody's going to say that's a red one. That one has, more cushion than the other one. That's a green one. And that's the perspective. And, I'm really interested in this idea of figuring out, what do I perceive? What do other people perceive? And ensuring that those perspectives are aligned. And that's helping me think through this. So I love that. Becoming versus achieving. I think that's fantastic. Look at this.
Oh, here we go.
Look at this, man. We talked a little bit about what sports teach about business, right? But
Yeah.
I had to pull a shout out to Katie. She did a great job finding an awesome action shot of you, putting it down.
6 inches off the ground. That's why you cut off my feet.
This is awesome, man. Especially since it's the NBA playoffs, and I was watching last night, just an incredible push from the Cavaliers, but an even better push back from the 76ers, right? It got me thinking, like, was it the 76ers? Yeah, I think it was. I don't know who they're playing. Yeah.
Pistons.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like the Pistons had a 9-minute drought of not scoring.
Yep.
Like Duncan Robinson couldn't score, Cunningham couldn't score, and Harden is just going off, right? But they stayed in there. And then if you watch this, Cunningham comes in the game. I think that's his last name.
Yeah.
And he delivers a pass to his big 3 plays in a row. They get 3 dunks.
Yeah.
And then they go on this rip roar and just crush the game, right? But like, it got me thinking about sports and business and the idea of these waves, right? Like, you're going to have droughts, you're going to have waves and it's not like they weren't playing hard. You saw Duncan Robinson, man, they were playing hard. Things were just not falling.
Totally.
Right? It's the same thing in business here. And so that reminds me of this discipline of showing up consistently and doing the work. But what's one lesson that you from your playing days that you see translate, most directly into business, but maybe some people are missing?
Yeah, I think, there's obvious takeaways, and you hear all the time, like, oh, they hire a bunch of athletes over there or whatever it is. Yeah, Katie, I know. You could make me look like the next time I'm just dunking on, LeBron or something.
Yeah, thanks, Katie.
No, I mean, you hear that a lot, right? It's like, yeah, we hire athletes here, they're high performers or whatever it is. There's a lot of the stuff we normally hear that's like self-driven, motivated, high motor, right? All that stuff. Man, I think the thing that I use daily, that I learned to use, I just call it a tool. Like, it was a tool that I learned to use at an early age, man. I told my dad when I was like 10, I was like, hey, we'd always watch games at night. And I told him, I was like, hey, I want to be the guys on the TV one day. And he was like, okay, well, those guys play Division I basketball. Like, that's going to take a lot of work. And I said, yeah, I know. I want to work to be the guys on the TV. And he goes, okay, great. So, man, he and like a couple other people in my life really held me to it. And it wasn't always easy. Like, turning 16 and like going to college and like all the things that we do as like young adults, like there was a lot of things that I chose not to do because I had a vision, and like not just a vision that I was interested in, like I was committed to this plan. And man, how many days this work that we do at the Freedom Lab, this is the first job I've ever had that doesn't feel like work. It's just, this is who I am. Like, it's why I'm here, to be honest, like on this earth. Up until now, and I would say 99% of people have some sort of job where there's at least a couple things that they don't like about that job. Administrative work, or cold calling, or we got to go back to the office now, or no longer remote, whatever it is. Like, there's at least a couple things for most people that they don't like about their job, about their work. And man, I loved basketball, but there was things in basketball I didn't like doing. I hated running sprints. I hated lifting for a long time. And over time, what it taught me was, hey, there's a way to kind of like reframe how you think about these things to where you
Mm,
can actually see them as a gift and enjoy them. Man, I got to college and I redshirted. I fell in love with the weight room. It's like totally reframe my mind. Like, oh, I don't have to worry about making shots this year. I'm gonna get jacked.
yeah.
So I think that's the biggest takeaway I have is, man, there's and that's just like a daily battle. Like I love being a dad. And there's things about being a dad that just suck. Really hard, right? Little kids, like waking up in the middle of the night, whatever it is, like there's things that are hard. And so I
Mm,
think if you can have that tool in your toolbox that's like, man, I can reframe how I think about this at any time. Sports taught me how to do that, and that's been real valuable for me.
yeah. Well, a couple things I want to double click on. First one is that reps help to build the identity. Okay. And I've had so many examples of this in my own life. But, when I was cut from the NFL at 335 pounds, less than 6 months later, I was 219 pounds. Okay. And
Hold on.
those reps,
335 to 219 in 6 months?
that's right.
I mean, that's
And
yeah.
that was a lot of weight. And it's like, well, people, how did you do that? Right. Well, I put in the reps. But like what happened when I was putting in those reps is I started to become a person who was like thinking about what I was putting into my body and what am I eating? What am I doing at the gym today? I'm not just showing up and like picking up a curl bar. Like we had a routine, right? And so then, man, that confidence started to be built because you start to see the results and all of those things were very much taught from sports, but also this idea that you got to have a short memory
Mhm.
and you've got to have this next play mentality and this is something that I'm trying to instill in my daughter and my son right now, which is like Tate's team came in, they wiped us with the on the court today. They wiped the floor with us, okay? But we got to show up the next practice and we got to put the work in. So it's like these things that you got this next play mentality of, well, you said that sales call that you were mentioning. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, maybe there's some things you can do better next time. But like at the end of the day, if you are like, man, I'm gonna move on, I'm gonna do my next thing now, and that's not gonna have a whole lot of, you know, chokehold on me. Like, I don't think I've ever, and this is something I have a hard time relating with. I think I've just had this next play mentality for a very long time. That's why I'm very coachable. But I have a short memory. It's like, all right, I wasn't prepared for that. And that caught me off guard. Won't happen again, you know? And, ask Katie, ask Nick, ask Mitch, ask anybody on the team. When I walk into a meeting or a room, their confidence goes from here to here. It's like this is
Mm.
good. We're ready. Like we're gonna be prepared. And if we're not, the next time we will be. And I think those are things that we have to continue to instill in the next generation in ourselves on a regular basis. And those are those parts that take time to obviously learn. But I do remember like getting beat as a left tackle and giving up a sack. Well, guess what? I got to get back up there the next play and block that same person who just beat me. It's like mano e mano, DN versus left tackle. You're on an island. It's the blind side, you versus them every single time, you know? And it kind of gets me to that idea, these high pressure moments, whether it's a big game, it's a big deal, it's a big conversation in your mind, like when you're talking to your high achievers and your clients, like what separates somebody in those moments who shows up confidently
Mhm.
versus somebody who kind of shrinks down and, just doesn't rise to the occasion.
Well, one, you can feel it, right? We've all been pitched to or sold something, and you can feel on the other side of the table or the other side of the phone when somebody is kind of muttering through their pitch or they're describing the thing that they want you to do. And it's like, bro, do you even believe in this? Because
Yeah.
I'm having a hard time hearing it in your tone. So, one, I think it's felt.
Mhm.
Man, I would tell you now, Yeah, it's funny. I think I got sports stories and business stories flowing through my head. I would tell you now, man, the people who can show up in their truest, fullest identity and let it rip, and have the, I mean, to your point, like, have the reps and the thoughtfulness and the intentionality to show up prepared, because, there's two sides of that coin. It's like, you could be as prepared as possible, but you show up kind of afraid and you let fear and like the what ifs kind of control you. And so your delivery is just off, and, maybe you don't build rapport. And it's just one of those things where it's like, this didn't go well.
Yeah.
You could also be completely unprepared, show up and say, hey, identity trumps all, like Jesse Itzler. I'm a big Jesse Itzler fan. He's a big
Love that guy.
confidence over credentials, right? Which I love. Now, blind, naive confidence with no preparedness and intentionality, that's not what he's talking about, and that doesn't work, right? It's confidence in the sense of, no, I've done the work, and so hell yeah, I'm worth this
Yeah.
much, or
Yeah.
like absolutely you should. Who else? If you would have bought a different product, you would have bought it already, right? Like that's the big Hormozy thing too. So yeah, man, I think being able to double down on the reps, which is like a lot of times that's hard. That's hard work, can be. And being able to walk into the conference room or get on the phone and be like, okay, I know my stuff. I'm going to let it rip. Here's how this is going to go.
Mhm.
Ah, man, those are the meetings you can leave and be like, they'll either do it or they won't. We did that great. We were prepared. We were intentional. We delivered it well. Like brought my identity into that room, and I'm taking it with me when I leave. Chips are going to fall how they fall.
Yeah. Well, a couple things on that. Jesse Itzler single-handedly has changed my life, introducing me to David Goggins and then Chad Wright,
Come
two
on.
elite
Company there. Yeah.
Yes. And, a billionaire. Jesse Itzler is a billionaire. I think by himself, and maybe his wife is too. Okay.
Yes.
So, like attracts like in that sense. But, he has this idea that Chad Wright gave him, which is that the words that you speak matter. And, my kids, if you ask my son Ezra, how are you doing? There's only one answer, and it's outstanding. Because the words that you speak matter. Maybe you and I should find a year where we can go do the 2029 thing or whatever. His running up the mountain
Yes.
whole ordeal.
Yes.
That would be a fun thing for us to do for sure together. But I think that the point is here that if you are prepared and you have the self-confidence in knowing that you did prepare, you can let it rip. And I love that. I love that idea of like letting it rip, because if you walk into a room and it's a pitch or whatever it is, like I'm going to go with a successful business owner at 3:00, sold his company. He's exiting. He's a tech guy. I got all this interest in tech right now, like very interested in it. MJ DeMarco's got my whole brain like looking at this what he's calling like this new wave of opportunity with this technology, right? So how do you use it? Okay. Anyways, I'm gonna go meet with this guy. It's like and I talked to a successful, very successful business guy yesterday who runs a tech fund, and there's nothing that I am saying. I'm not even nervous about those meetings because I'm not expecting anything from it. Like, because I've got a business. We're running the plays that I've put in place. We've got deals under contract that are moving to close. Like, I'm here talking with somebody to learn something and create some ideas and be collaborative. But my pipeline is so chocked full because I've been letting it rip for 2 years that I show up in a way that they're like, now that's company that I want to be, around. And there's that guy, the School of Hard Knocks. I just watched him on LinkedIn. He goes around and interviews people out when they get out of their cars, right?
Yeah, it's great.
And he just interviewed Jesse Itzler. And
Yep.
that was the clip that I saw. And Jesse Itzler's like, I'll write you a $10 million check right now for 10% of your business because I invest in people, right? And he kind of put, I think the guy's name is James, kind of put him on the spot, right?
Yep.
But same idea. Jesse Itzler is so confident and knowing how to spot, like, he's like, that is me 25 years ago. That guy is moving in the right direction, right? But he's like, I've got business. I don't need to do anything else, but I recognize something here that I want to move towards. And I think that's super important. So, okay. So we're coming up on time here. Let me ask you a few more questions in regards to this. We've talked a little bit about this. I'm going to actually move to this because I think folks here that are listening in want to translate this stuff to business as much as they possibly can. Okay.
Yeah.
And, I often say, and I'm being mentored by one of the top or maybe the GOAT of commercial real estate brokerage of all time, done $25 billion in sales, and hired him as my commercial real estate coach, right? And he says passion, expertise, discipline. All right. And so in sales and commercial real estate, it's an identity game. Like the passion side, I've got that's in me, right? Like I've got that. Now expertise is where I can really elevate. Some people may say that guy knows Kansas City. I know like a hundredth of what I need to know about my business, So, and then the discipline side of things is always something that I'm working on. But in regards to business situations, like a tough negotiation, you're trying to win a deal, let's talk through how this becoming versus achieving and this identity actually shows up in those situations. Give us a story or some coaching in regards to that, because like you said, it's a superpower, but people have to experience it, I feel.
Yeah. No, it is. And really we're talking about, a lot of times I'll tell people to think of their self in parts, to where it's like, hey, the part of you that is prepping and it's maybe just like in your office alone or with your team, it's more of an internal part. Maybe that's one part. And then there's like the external part where you're in the conference room or you're on the phone or you're with a client. Man, one of the things we say a lot is squeeze the sponge. So, you hear people talk about being a sponge all the time. And you're like, okay, usually what they mean is I'm going to intake all this information on this podcast or this sermon or this book, whatever it is. It's like, I just want to show up there and be a sponge. And that's great. So what happens if a sponge just swipes over the counter and takes in all this liquid over and over and over again? Completely dilutes the sponge and it can't do its job anymore if it's just intake. You got to squeeze it. That's the point of a sponge, right? Well, how do we squeeze it as people? We talk about it, right? We let it out, like get on a podcast, journal, talk with your team or whatever it is. Like there's a million ways to let that information come in you and flow through you. The difference is between people and a sponge. The more you use a sponge, the more diluted it gets. The more you're taking in and squeezing your sponge, man, that's becoming. That's growing and evolving as a human being. So I tell people all the time, like, if you're, people who are listening to this, like they're probably bent towards intaking, right? Podcast listeners in general. It's like, hey, what podcast could I use to kind of level up today? It's like, okay, you probably have a bent towards like the intake side. How are you squeezing the sponge? And man, like even this right now is a way in which you and I can both just like squeeze the sponge. What is stirring in our heart and in our mind and in our business? Like what thoughts and ideas do we have? Man, I should talk about that with my team. If you don't talk about it with your team, you never squeeze it and you either harbor it or polish it into where it's like, then you end up presenting an idea that's just your idea. Maybe your team didn't get the chance to revise it or make it better. But when we can like continue to intake, which a lot of us do naturally, and even now, man, like with social media and like all the data and all the things that we have access to, it's almost hard not to be a sponge in terms of an intake mechanism. When we can daily squeeze it, man, I think that's like a huge step towards us becoming. And then your superpower gets unlocked and it's like, you'll know what to do. I tell myself all the time, like I tell our clients all the time, I'm not the boss here and I'm not a consultant. I tell people, consultants, I want you to think answers. I have the answers or I'm going to go find the answers and you're going to pay me to do that. A coach is more like, think questions.
Yeah.
You have the answers, and I'm just going to ask you questions that bring them out of you. But if you don't squeeze the sponge, like you're just going to be limiting yourself. So,
I love it, man. We're letting it rip. We're squeezing sponges
yes.
today. And, I'm going to squeeze the sponge right now. All right. What you just said reminded me of something that I intook, or, it was on an intake side of things, but it was about reading. And this person was like, the question that I like to ask is not what you got out of that book, what you got out of that podcast. It is, what did that book, that podcast get out of you?
Yeah.
Wow.
So good.
Not, hey, I just read, the Book of Elon from Eric Jorgensen. That's a book I'm going to be starting here pretty soon. Shout out to Eric Jorgensen. Fantastic work with Naval Ravikant and everything that he's got going on. But he literally doesn't write those books. He aggregates all of the work that and messages that they put together, right? And so it's like this idea of what did it get out of you versus what did you get out of it? So I want to leave people with that and think about that. We're heading over to my favorite section of our show. It's Quick Tates with Tate today. So talking about books and podcasts, man, what's got your ear right now?
Ooh, favorite book. Just read a book by a friend, David Gerber. It's called The Lion Is You. It's an amazing book about identity and like a self-transformation journey. Podcast, there's a lot here. Big intake guy. Love this podcast that I'm on right now. This is probably 1A today.
There we go.
Beyond High Performance. This is it's a coaching firm. They are like the Nike of kind of coaching firms, and they run a great high performance podcast. I'll say that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to go down to this because I think a lot of people think about, creating the perfect day. Very goal focused, right? Yeah. So what does a perfect day look like for you now versus you 5 to 10 years ago?
Ooh, now I'll say this: 5 to 10 years ago, I was in the sales seat. Perfect day would have looked like productive day at work, deals closing, money rolling in the bank, takeout on the patio with real young kids at that point, just to time alone with my wife to end the day. Now, man, a perfect day for me now is I'm doing what I'm here to do. So that's coach. And that's, I don't know, let's say 2 or 3 one-on-ones with people that I'm coaching in the morning. After I do breakfast and drop off with the fam and the kids, I pick up from school and we go just have fun and don't work in the afternoon. Don't work. I wouldn't feel like I worked all day if I was just coaching all morning and then playing with my kids all day. That would be perfect.
Yep, absolutely love that. All right, there's a lot of talk right now about kids sports and,
yes.
Trust me, I spent 6 hours at Shields Soccer Complex this past weekend, okay? So I understand it. But knowing what you do now, are you encouraging your children to chase sports the way that you did, or are you guiding them a little bit differently?
Yeah, they're young. My daughter is probably the most into sports. She'll be 8 this year. She's very naturally athletic. She's fast. She'll be a good athlete, but man, my encouragement all the way 110% right now has been just have fun. Just do what you like to do and let's try everything. Where she told me the other day her favorite sport is tennis. She's never played tennis. So I'm like, yeah, great. Let's go do tennis and soccer and basketball and all the things. So, yeah, another conversation for another day. I could dig into a lot of my story and just like the good and the bad that I felt as a kid. Looking back, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I did it. Look what happened. But also there was plenty of days where I'm like, man, this kind of sucks. I don't get to play with my friends like I want to. So yeah, for now, I just want them to enjoy it. Whatever it is.
I mean, I'll give my 2 cents on this one. I would say it depends. And it depends because if you're made up of the same stuff that I am, which I see in my son a ton, which is a lot of energy, a lot of emotion, and this next level. Like, you see my son play against the other 5.5-year-olds. And it's not just because he's my son. Everybody on the side of the field, he gets a look in his eyes, and it's just like dialed in, and he
Game
will
on.
not come off of the field. And he doesn't even know if he likes soccer, but he's giving it his all. And so my son watches me go down to our gym every single day and work out. And so he started coming down and he said, Daddy, I want to be able to do some pull-ups. And so, like, we've been working on pull-ups. So for my son, it's like, yes, sports, you need an outlet to get this energy out and dedicate yourself to, because if not, you have no interest in musical instruments at this point, of drawing, of singing. And I'm giving that example of my oldest daughter, which she does love. She loves playing piano. She loves singing. She loves dancing. She loves all of these things. And she likes sports. But, like, I'm definitely not going to say, hey, you need to be in sports, because she finds a creative outlet. But for my son, I will tell you, he is literally a little me. And it was the most important thing for me growing up, because I could take all of that energy and translate it into something at least productive in that sense. Okay. So I think the answer is, it depends. Now, don't get me started on all the traveling teams and having your kids in 3 different leagues at the same time. But I will also say that Tate is 100% right with his daughter being very athletic, because, again, I think it was 42-0 with our game.
That's not accurate. Dude, you must have caught us on a good day, because I think we finished 500 maybe. So, you know, who knows?
Me feel even worse about my wife's coaching ability. So
yeah,
she won't
all
listen to
coaching.
this, so
That's
no big
what
deal.
she said.
But Katie's on here again. She goes, that was the question I was really interested in, being a mom of young athletes, because her daughters are incredible softball players. Like, they just won a big championship, right? And this is on a lot of people's minds, I think, right now, thinking about that. So maybe we'll do a segment just on that. Tate, this has been unbelievable, man. We could go. I said we were going to go for 30 minutes. We're coming up on an hour. We could go for an hour and a half to 2 easily. So we'll have you back on, maybe even just quarterly, what you're learning and sharing with folks, because so valuable. But point people in the right direction if they want to learn more about the Freedom Lab and the work that you're doing with high performers.
Yeah, Freedom Lab podcast, find thefreedomlab.com. That's kind of what we do. We help high performers get what they want most and explore everything that they're capable of. So I think, one question that we have yet to get pushback on is, do you want to be the best version of yourself? And once we have some clarity and a vision, and it's specific and thrilling, and we can help them chase it, like, that's really what we do. So a lot of athletes, a lot of C-suite executives, that's kind of who we've worked with up until now. But if you're a high performer and you want to get what you want most, then yeah, check it out.
Definitely.
Thank you, man, for having me on. Always a blessing time with you. When you hit me on this, I was like, absolutely. This is a blessing. Always enjoy time with you, man.
Well, today we definitely let it rip. We squeezed the sponge.
Amen.
All of the things today. Again, walking away with things that I'm not going to forget. So we very much appreciate your time. Everybody that's listening in, you guys know we do commercial real estate in Kansas City area. We help people buy, sell, lease commercial real estate. So please do reach out to us. You can find us all over the internet, www.mwcreadvisors.com. We're not hard to get a hold of. Love to talk with you about what you're trying to accomplish. We're doing business in a little bit of a different way, and we're applying a lot of discipline and expertise to it. So thanks for tuning in, all the listeners, to another episode of the Kansas City Commercial Real Estate Market Pulse. We'll be back next week with another episode. Appreciate you guys being here, and thanks again, Tate.